Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are entering one of the most important off seasons for the Dallas Cowboys, given the nature of where the team's at right now. Mike McCarthy's going into the fourth season of his tenure here. We're hearing the talk about Dak Prescott, the front office, and they're in action. We're getting a new OC. Like, everything's going on right now. What we're going to go over in this video is the expectations and goals for the Cowboys in 2023 and what they have to do to get there. So a roadmap video, like they have to do this, this, and this. And we'll talk about that in here. And then we'll have other videos kind of going into detail about certain other things. So stay tuned for that. But this is just the overview video, like the Cliff Notes version, if you will. Now, before we begin, if you can like the video, that'd be awesome. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the notification bell. I greatly appreciate all your support, guys. Thank you so much. And if you want to become a member and support the channel on a monthly basis, hit the join button down below. Now, look, we know what the goals are. We know, Cowboys fans, that the sole standard here in Dallas is winning a championship. I get it. Cool. But let's look at it this way. Mike McCarthy came in, first year 6-10 train wreck, right? 12-5. Go into the postseason with the division crown. You lose. Okay. That stung, but you lost. Then you go into the postseason the following year, 12-5, so you didn't regress in the sense of your record. And you get into the postseason again, won a playoff game, but lost a competitive one. And here's the thing, right, is when you look at these postseason games, we're not getting blown the hell out. Like, if you look at the Jason Garrett era, like the Rams game, we were getting blown out. You had, sure, the 2014 one and the 2016 situations. My point is that you were in games. You didn't give up 30 points yet in the postseason. That is remarkable for the Cowboys. The most we've given up in the postseason to this point in time is 23 points in the Mike McCarthy era. And the issue I have, aside from the one game against Tampa Bay, you put up 17 and 12 points. Now, whether you want to blame Kellen Moore, that's one thing, but the biggest elephant in the room, which I would argue that's more so on the first game. This third game was a direct result of the inability to adjust after Pollard got hurt and your lack of weapons. 2023 is to be dedicated to rebuilding this offense from the ground up. Kellen Moore is gone. That's the first step. Okay, so let's get rid of it, and Doug Nussmeier, get rid of all the offensive coaches so we can bring in new guys to bring in a new system. Change the verbiage. I'm telling you, you have to rehaul this offense. If we're saying we're going to keep the verbiage, I'm a bit skeptical of where we're at. But long story short, I hear Mike McCarthy's calling the plays. That's cool. But you need to do what's necessary to position yourself to get into the Final Four. In the NFC, get to the NFC Championship game. That is the goal. You need to get to the NFC Championship game to satisfy my goals for where the Cowboys are at. And, you know, it's not guaranteed. But if you can do things to make me say, guys, they made enough moves, let's just see what happens, I can live with whatever result. But you have to prove that to me. So let's actually talk about the roadmap, right? So we know the Dallas Cowboys' goal in 2023, finally get to the NFC Championship game. Mike McCarthy, you need to get it done. Plain and simple. And, you know, I'm not even just looking at Mike McCarthy now. Let's move over to the front office, getting into the overall roadmap. First is we got to turn the offensive coaching staff, which is exactly what the Cowboys are doing right now. Now, as of this recording, I'm going to make this super clear. We don't have an OC. We don't have a QB coach. I've put out videos who I think it might be, but I'm just letting you know nothing has set in stone yet. So things could be subject to change, and we'll talk about that once they've hired certain people and what we're hearing what's going to happen. So once we've turned this coaching staff fully, step 2, load the offense up with weapons. You can open up cap space. The Dallas Cowboys have the ability to open up around $20 to $40 million in cap space, whether it be extensions, whether it be restructures. This is the year to go all in. There's no more excuses. Trevon Diggs' contract, CeeDee Lamb's contract. We want to talk about contracts. You can extend these guys. Worry about 2023 and 2024. That's your little window right there if you want to be like, oh, well, there's a window when you have the plan. All right, let's play in that window then, right? So open up the cap space. Let's just say you open up 20 or 30. Then what do? Bring in the offensive firepower. We need better receivers. That's number one. I need you to go out and get a receiver in free agency or trade for one. Maybe bring back a guy if you're that comfortable. But for me personally, I don't give a damn. Yeah, you can bring back T.Y. Hilton. I don't care. Ultimately, go get weapons. Trade for Hunter Renfrow. Trade for Brandon Cooks. Trade for DeAndre. I don't give a damn anymore. You need to load this team up. There's no excuses. Michael Gallup, I'm not entirely sure where he's going to be at next year, and I'm worried that he might not be recovered from the ACL injury ever. I hope I'm wrong. I definitely, please hope to God, I hope I'm wrong on that. But you need to bring in at least 1 to 2 receivers. So if it were up to me, if you want to go cheap, bring T.Y. Hilton back. Okay, cool. We have a nice little cheaper option, and you have some rookies to try to develop. And go bring in another guy, whether it be a draft pick, which in my opinion, double down. That's just my rule of thought. But again, I think the Dallas Cowboys need to add an offense. I'm okay with trading a second-round pick for Hunter Renfrow or a third-round pick, whatever the hell you got to do. Get somebody in here that can be a viable set of options for your quarterback. Because that's going to lead to the next step. Step 3, you need to rebuild this run game. Now, when I say that, your offensive line, you got Tyler Smith. You're most likely going to need a new left guard, assuming that Connor McGovern leaves. And then your right side is more or less figured out. The problem is that what is Terrence Steele, what's his timeline? Because ultimately, your offensive line, you're good, but you need to add more pieces, like if that makes any sense, right? So I think that you got to keep adding to the offensive line, but more specifically, your running backs, you need to replace them. Tony Pollard, different story. I've already talked about that. I felt like with Tony Pollard, you maybe had to have the tough discussion of, do you franchise tag him and move on? For me, I'm okay with just saying, hey, man, thank you so much. Let's go get someone else. That's just how you got to treat the running back position. I'm okay with double dipping at running back in the draft. My main thing is you need to get better juice. I've heard people talk about Bijan Robinson at 26 if he's there. Okay, well, if you're going to do that, you need to do what I said prior. Get this team as much offensive firepower as possible in the passing game in order for us to make a maneuver like that, right? So for me, if you want to draft a guy, I'm cool with it, but you have to make me get on board with that. Right now, I'm not. Go draft a running back in the second round. I'm a big fan of Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think that that's an option there in the second round, especially if you're looking for a Pollard type of guy. If you want more of a hard-nosed runner, sure, you can go get Bijan Robinson if he's there. You also have the guy out of UCLA, which we'll talk about later on this channel in the scouting reports. But again, the Dallas Cowboys need to revamp this run game, whether it be Malik Davis and 2 other running backs, Malik Davis, Tony Pollard, insert running back here. You need more juice. I'm sorry, Zeke. I love you, bro. It's time to move on. It is. It's time to move on. I'm not paying this dude $5 million, even if he takes a pay cut, to be a glorified fullback at this point in time. And I'm not trying to sit here and defame what he did. Right? At the end of the day, I know the situation he's in. It's just, guys, we have to understand that we got to load this team up. We have no excuses anymore. And then your tight end position, I think you're set, but you can always add another guy in there. And the reason I have these phases, right, 1, 2, and 3, is ultimately, for the final portion of this, if you do all the other steps that I mentioned, you put the pressure squarely on your quarterback, which everybody wants to replace more or less in this day and age, right? Hey, we want a new quarterback. Hey, Dak is this, Dak is that. We have seen when you give Dak Prescott tools to work with, he can cook. 2021 was a prime example of that. I mean, the dude threw 37 touchdown passes, right? And we saw in 2019, okay, you have, Gallup, Cobb, and Amari, and he cooked there. I get it, we didn't go where we wanted to go. My main thing is you want to put pressure on him. You're going to get a coaching staff that's going to freaking push him to the limit. You're going to give him weapons to work with and a run game that you can incorporate him in. Because this is my big thing, Cowboys fans. If you truly want Dak Prescott to get as much blame as he wants, you need to not create any excuses, which we can't say, well, Kellen Moore is a problem, the weaponry is a problem, the wide receiving room and the running backs, and Dak Prescott. Like, if everybody's a problem, doesn't make sense. So here's the thing. If it's up to me, what you had to do is load the team up as much as possible offensively so that he has everything he needs to do, and then see if he cooks. If he doesn't, then yeah, we start having that conversation. But until then, you, Stephen Jones, Jerry, get off your ass, get away from the Bahamas, get to work. Get to work getting this offense back on track. Get some weapons in here. I'm not asking for much. I'm just asking for maybe one tier 2 free agent, maybe 2, and just go from there. Rebuild the run game, get some new running backs in here, and that's it. Like, that is it. I think if you do that, you could position yourself being a team that can maybe make a run to the championship, depending on how the dominoes fall with these other teams. Philly's going to be a tough out, and I don't need to win the division. I just need you to get into the postseason with viability. Because we saw this year, as a wild card team, the Dallas Cowboys defensively had enough to get it done. Offensively, I feel like if you had Amari Cooper, or if you had a second receiving option, or you had running backs with juice that weren't hurt, you probably win that game. I'm not saying you're going to blow out the 49ers, and I don't expect you to do that in the postseason like you did with Tampa every single time. But that's the name of the game for the Cowboys. You have met my expectations thus far. I have raised my expectations, and you need to reach that NFC Championship game. But if you do not do what I'm asking, which I fully expect not to happen, then my window will remain the same. You will maybe win a playoff game. You'll be lucky, like miracle-wise, to get 2 wins. It's just what it is, guys. I'm sorry, but that's the honest-to-God truth. So with all that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed this video and roadmap for the Dallas Cowboys and what they had to do. If you did enjoy it, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the join button, become a member. And with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, guys, have a good one.